Senator from Texas.
Are we in a quorum call, Mr. President?
We are.
I'd ask consent that the quorum call be dispensed with.
Without objection.
Mr. President, in Texas, my constituents who are on the Affordable Care Act exchanges, otherwise known as Obamacare, are experiencing an 18% increase in their insurance premiums. Now, if you look at employer-provided coverage, which covers many, many more Americans, those increases in costs are going up roughly in the 5 to 6% range. So you might wonder why the huge disparity between Obamacare and the rest of health care. Of course, our health care system is pretty fragmented. We have people who have employer-provided coverage, seniors who have Medicare, low-income individuals who qualify for Medicaid, veterans who qualify for the VA system or TRICARE. But for the group of people who believed what President Obama said when he sold Obamacare about 15 years ago now, they've been deceived. I still remember like it was yesterday, the president said, if you like your policy, you can keep your policy. That was a lie. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Well, that was not true either. And then he said the average premiums would go down about $2,500 for people on these Affordable Care Act exchanges. Well, that wasn't true either. Years ago, I was Attorney General of the state of Texas. We had a consumer protection division, and where we would sue people who would consciously defraud consumers. And if this isn't one of the biggest consumer frauds perpetrated in our lifetime, maybe in history, I don't know what is. No Republican voted for Obamacare. We didn't think that was the best solution to providing access to health care. Only Democrats voted for it. And now they've created this incredible mess, this unworkable, unsustainable, unaffordable health care system within the rest of our health care system. And they look to us, Republicans, the people who did not create this problem, as, okay, now how are you going to fix it? They don't have any better ideas. As a matter of fact, what they want is more of the same. They want zero reforms. They want more waste, fraud, and abuse. They want more money to go to insurance companies. They want 100% of the tax dollars that pay for the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare exchanges. They want it to continue going to insurance companies. President Trump has said, let's get the money to the consumer so they can choose what they want. I think that's a better idea. Plus, insurance companies skim about 20% off of those taxpayer-provided subsidies for their administrative costs and profit. And you know what? Insurance companies are among the most profitable companies in America, certainly since Obamacare started. And then finally, they want to break what has been roughly a, 50-year consensus on whether tax dollars should be used to pay for abortions. We know abortions and that issue divides much of America. But one area that we have agreed on, this consensus back named after Henry Hyde, a famous legislator, House member from Illinois, is something called the Hyde Amendment that says no tax dollars can go for abortions. And Democrats want to throw that out the window. Well, rather than just point the finger at our Democratic colleagues, we actually have come up with a better idea. And I'm grateful to our colleague, Senator Crapo, chairman of the Finance Committee, and Senator Cassidy, a medical doctor who's head of the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, for coming up with an alternative proposal, which is predicted to bring premium prices down about 11%. Now that's real money that people can use to spend on other things. Again, 18% increase each year after year after year. This is a train wreck for people on these affordable care policies. And as I said, the proposal by Senator Crapo and Senator Cassidy aligns with what President Trump has said, is let's get the money to the people. Wouldn't you rather have the money to buy the kind of coverage that you want and need? We are not all the same. We have people of different ages, different health care needs. Some young and healthy people may figure they don't need as comprehensive a coverage as older folks do. But our Democratic colleagues believe that we're all cut out of the same cloth and we are all the same when it comes to access need for health care, and that's just not true. This legislation that's been proposed, not by the Democrats who want more of the same broken system, the alternative that Senator Crapo and Senator Cassidy have proposed, we voted on it, and our Democratic colleagues did not support it at all. We sure didn't vote for this mess, what we call Dems' dirty Obamacare bill. This is a disaster, and it was sold under false pretenses, and we need to do better for our constituents who need access to affordable health care. Well, our Democratic colleagues are calling for a clean extension of the enhanced Obamacare subsidies because they don't want any changes in what I've described here. And that's the heart of the problem. We know there's a whole host of problems with this Obamacare subsidies, and any extension that fails to address them is more apt to be described as what I'd call a dirty bill. It doesn't solve the problem. So what are the issues? Well, first of all, we know that these subsidies are rife with fraud. In other words, your tax dollar is being misappropriated to fraudsters. We've been saying that all along, and now we have a new report from the Government Accountability Office which demonstrates beyond a shadow of a doubt what we've always suspected to be true. They documented it. The report paints a picture that makes the notion of a so-called clean extension with no changes outright laughable. That's not a clean extension. The investigators at GAO created fake identities and Social Security numbers for 24 individuals who did not exist. And they did this in order to find out what would happen when they took advantage of these Obamacare subsidies. They took these imaginary 24 and tried to enroll them in Affordable Care Act plans through Obamacare exchanges in 2024 and 2025. Shockingly, they were able to successfully enroll almost all of these imaginary individuals in subsidized coverage because the insurance companies were more than happy to take those tax dollars and in exchange for providing this phantom coverage. For 2024, the auditors were able to secure health coverage for all 4 of the applicants submitted worth approximately $2,350 a month. In 2025, 19 of the 20 applicants were able to qualify for subsidized coverage worth more than $10,000 per month. And these people didn't exist. Of the 24 fake identities, only one of them was not allowed to be enrolled. All the incentives for the insurance companies are, let's issue the policy. We don't care if this is a real person or not. What we want is the premium dollar, and we want the taxpayer to pay for it. The notion that someone can enroll in a taxpayer-subsidized health insurance policy with a non-existent identity should be enough to stop us dead in our tracks and say, we need to change it. We need to fix this. But the fraud does not stop there. GAO also found more than 29,000 instances in 2023 and nearly 68,000 instances in 2024 of a single Social Security number being used to enroll in more than one plan in a given year. So you had people with the same Social Security number able to enroll in multiple plans in a given year, meaning these Social Security numbers were being traded and assigned to more than one person. Again, all the incentives are for the insurance companies to issue as many policies as they can because that's how they make more money. During its probe, GAO discovered that the federal marketplace does not prohibit multiple enrollments per Social Security number. So under the status quo, which Democrats want to continue, one person could enroll in multiple policies. Again, in some instances, they may not even know that they're enrolled in multiple policies. The excuse given for this practice is it protects the Social Security holder's number from fraud or identity theft. But I'm sure we can find a better safeguard against Social Security fraud than simply letting multiple people enroll in healthcare with the same Social Security number without raising any questions or any red flags. So imagine if you were a victim of identity theft. Wouldn't you want to be notified if someone else was using your identity, your Social Security number, in order to get health insurance? Democrats have been telling us from time and time again that illegal immigrants cannot access taxpayer-subsidized health care. But we know from the GAO report that there are no mechanisms to prevent an illegal alien from enrolling in coverage if they have access to somebody else's Social Security number. And as if this isn't enough, the list of offenses go on and on and on. In 2024, CMS reported approximately 275,000 reports from consumers that they were either enrolled or had made changes in their insurance without their consent. Now, this is a problem. If you're taking a medication, or even if you have a particular doctor you like, having your plan changed without your knowledge or consent could result in the loss of coverage altogether or force you to change doctors unnecessarily. But this underscores one of the most significant problems that my Republican colleagues and I have raised with these so-called Obamacare enhanced subsidies. They directly line the pockets of insurance companies without lowering costs for consumers and taxpayers, and they do so in a way that's rife with fraud. When insurance brokers are enrolling patients or making changes to their coverage without their consent, the insurance company receives those tax dollars for the enrollee. But since the patient doesn't or may not have knowledge that they've even been enrolled, or perhaps that they're already enrolled in some other policy elsewhere, the insurance company will have to pay out zero in claims. That's what insurance companies like. They like to collect the premium and they like to pay as few claims as possible. So it's a perfect arrangement for them. But it's not for the taxpayer. These Obamacare enhanced subsidies are rife with fraud and should not be extended without meaningful reforms. In addition to the problems raised by the GAO report, the subsidies don't contain HIDE protections. I mentioned that a moment ago. People who have conscientious objection to abortion policies shouldn't have to be forced using their tax dollars to subsidize it for people who want to fund abortions and transgender procedures. Again, this used to be the 50-year-long consensus known as the Hyde Amendment. Many hardworking taxpayers who elected us have religious or moral objections to these operations, myself included. And the government should not be forcing Americans to participate or subsidize practices that violate their deeply held beliefs by financing them with their tax dollars. The Democrats' plan does nothing to address rampant fraud, the use of tax dollars to line the pockets of insurance companies, and the lack of HIDE protections for these subsidies. The lack of these changes does not mean this extension proposed by Democrats is clean. Far from it. We understand, I understand, that Texans need access to affordable health care, but this is not it. We will look forward to working together to find a real workable solution to health care affordability. What I worry about is that our Democratic colleagues really don't want to solve this problem. They want to have a political issue they can ride all the way to the midterm elections. And that's not just a cynical view of mine. I think that's a very likely reality. We can do better. We need to do better. Our constituents expect us to do better by working together to come up with affordable solutions for them without taking advantage of the taxpayers and lining the pockets of wealthy insurance companies. Mr. President, I yield the floor, and I'd note the absence of quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Alsobrooks.